Music matters. DreamAwake, man.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you doing this.
I mean, appreciate you interviewing me, man.
Dude,
Thanks
yeah,
a
of
lot.
course. Thank you for having me at the studio.
Yep.
I guess where I wanted to start with you, just because we were having a really interesting conversation before everything started and before the cameras were on and everything. I feel like you're, as a producer and as a musician, you're like very much at like the forefront of this wave of like electro hip hop that's like mixed with a lot of punk aesthetic that's really blowing up right now. And it's cool to interview you right now because I'm really excited for this because I feel like I'm catching you at a time where like that wave and that sound is kind of like entering a new period. I almost feel like it's like progressing into the mainstream. So when did you first get started like kind of experimenting with that sound and watching the progression of it and just working with the artists that you work with now that all that it seems like a majority of them kind of land in that lane?
Yeah. I would say I've been probably making stuff like that. I mean, even since around the time I first started producing. I mean, hard-hitting 808s and like those kind of like video gamey type, synths and melodies and things like that. I feel like maybe over the past year or two, it kind of got a little bit more aggressive sounding, I would say, but I would say that sounds existed in other forms, with other producers and with other artists like Ronnie J. Like, I think that's one producer that doesn't get talked about in this situation, but he's really one, I think, that popularized that heavy, aggressive, sound, and he did incorporate some aspects of what's going on in the whole, rage wave right now, with, some of the synths and sound choices that he used. But I would say probably since like 2018, I've been making stuff that sounded like that, but only recently did it get refined into, the sound you're hearing with like Cardi and Yeat, and I would say, the other, people who are at the forefront of that sound. But that's just been a recent thing, I'd say, over the past year.
And that's an exciting time to kind of get into it too, I feel like, because I mean, we were talking before, we were just checking out the Yeat video that just dropped on Lyrical Lemonade. That's a guy you've worked with, and that's another guy who's really at like the front of that sound right now. And when you bring up Ronnie J, it's interesting because I could be, I mean, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but it seems like he kind of, that's not a sound he like kind of tries to create at the moment anymore. Like he just put out that project with Lil Pump and stuff. Like it seems like that's not really where he is. So part of me is like, I wonder why he kind of went away from that, because I do feel like if there's a time where like that sound is breaking into the mainstream, like it's right now.
Yeah. I completely agree. I mean, I think really he veered away from that sound for a while just because, I mean, so many people started to copy him and emulate, his drums. And I mean, literally as soon as he started using distorted 808s, I mean, I started hearing them everywhere, and from other artists and other producers. So I understand, why he ended up, he started going for a more subdued sound and going, I think, for a more mainstream kind of sound at some point. And, he couldn't be as abrasive for, the type of artists that he was working with when he started, breaking more mainstream. But, yeah.
But that's what's so interesting about it to me. It's like I feel like that the sound does like exist in a place where it's very experimental and very abrasive, right? But it's becoming more of the mainstream. Like it's getting to the place where like those sounds aren't like so unusual to the ear anymore. And it's interesting because we're watching it in live time. Like we're watching that sound kind of reinvent itself and become the forefront of hip-hop, like literally in live time. And it's a pretty cool thing to watch. So when you look at that sound and kind of the place that you exist as a producer, where do you see that sound like going in 3 years? Like, because I feel like personally it's going to be huge.
I would say I already felt maybe like 2-3 years ago that hip-hop production was going to go more like in the EDM direction, or is going to have more elements of like electronic music than it already did. And I would say that's absolutely true for where hip hop's at right now, and like all types of abstract weird sounds are being used. And I think that the sound is changing so fast now that it's hard to really tell where we're going to be at in 3 years. Yeah. I mean, even just with the past 2 years, the sound change has been so drastic and so fast, and like things are sounding, I mean, especially in the underground. I listen to a lot of underground artists. Like there's just so many different types of weird beats that are coming out every day. So it's hard to keep track of how that sound's gonna progress, or
especially when you think about like hip hop as an entity right now and how large and widespread it is and how many different things are going on, it's hard to figure out like which of the emerging subcultures is going to be like the prevailing sound within the next 5 years, you know? It's incredible because thinking about where hip hop was 5 years ago, this is not where I would have guessed it would have went.
Yeah, and I think some people thought it was gonna, you know, go away from mumble rap back into, you know, more boom bappy stuff for like OG hip hop. You know, the kind of lane that I think like
I kind of felt like that for
occupies and like J. Cole kind of sound like.
Yeah.
And part of me felt like that too, but I mean, we're here now and it's just like music's getting so crazy in general. And I think looking at this specific, you know, change in sound in like hip hop, like when you really start breaking down into those underground artists, like you're gonna start seeing like, oh shit, like it gets weirder and weirder as you go deep. You know what I'm saying? And when you hear the Yeats and Cardis and Unos and all that, like you're hearing like just like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
You know? So
especially when you think about where they started, you know, like Uno's a good example of this. I mean, he was an artist where like it's not like he just broke into that sound. That's been his sound. You know, like that's consistently been like the lane that he existed in for a long time. So it's like watching a guy like him come to the forefront of a movement like that is cool because I feel like he was the catalyst of something that you know, it changed a lot.
He was the catalyst and he was the captain. I feel like of that sound, of that, you know, like Uno, I mean, shit, bro. He's popularized so many things that are like now just becoming acceptable within, you know, the lane of music that he's in. And it's just like, bro, he's been doing all that shit. Like, he's been doing every single thing that, you know, several other artists have gotten famous for. You know what I'm saying? So
of course.
It's like, I mean, that's just the way shit goes, I guess. But
how'd you first meet him and get tapped in with him?
It was actually here at this studio where we're at right now. Back at the beginning of 2021, I was here. My boy Rick, who engineers here. Shout out Rick. Rick _D1 on Instagram.
Shout out Rick.
Shout out Rick. He told me to pull up because he had some artists that had a session booked or whatever, and these artists ended up being Uno's, you know, affiliates, Snow Bands and Cali Cocaine. And I pulled up some beats for them, and they ended up going through a couple ideas. I think they recorded a couple songs on my beats that night, but one of them they ended up dropping the next day on SoundCloud. So when they posted that on Instagram, Uno went and commented on it, you know, who made this beat.
Oh, wow.
And then, yeah, I was tripping because I saw that, and I was like, holy fuck. And then I went and told my friends, like, to go like comment my name and say that I was the one who produced it under the post.
Wait, so he posted that like on a story or something? He said like who made this?
No, he commented it on the actual post. So when Snow Bands dropped the song, they made an Instagram post, and then Uno went and commented on the actual
that makes
post.
Sense.
And he was like, who made this beat? And then they ended up Snow Bands, I think he ended up deleting the comments or something because they didn't like want to like, you know, share who I was, you know, with them because for whatever reason. And then, yeah, Uno ended up messaging me. He sent me like a fire emoji or some shit. And I was like, bro, like, what the fuck? I was like, what's good? Like, let me send you a pack. And then he ended up sending me his number. And I sent him a bunch of beats. And then I think like a week went by or something. He was like, send more. So, ended up sending more. And then, yeah, he tapped in with me and was like, check my story, and I went and checked the story, and then there was a snippet for the song Don't Panic that's on Universe 2. I tripped the fuck out. And I think he sent me a snippet for the song Da Vinci that we also had on there. But yeah, I was tripping. I mean, working with Uno was like, I mean, still is like such a dream come true because he's like one of my favorite artists of all time, if not my favorite artist of all time. So when he hit me up, it was just like holy fuck, you know, I shot my pants.
That's crazy. That like it wasn't just some like random big rapper. It was a random, you know, it was a rapper that you were like super into and a sound that you were really inspired by.
Exactly, and it was like the universe just aligned that at the perfect time. And it's crazy because like, I mean, we're not in LA. Like I'm not in LA, you know, and Uno's like he lives in LA, North Hollywood and shit. And he's like super tapped in with everybody there, you know. So for him to hit me up, and I'm like some random kid in fucking San Jose, and I've been grinding at this for like 4 or 5 years now. At that point, when that shit happened, it was like, it just felt like all the hard work paid off, and that like God almost dropped that in my lap. So it was surreal. It still is surreal, you know, at this point. But yeah, it was crazy. So we just locked in from there and like sent him a shitload of beats, like maybe like 300 or 400 beats,
Holy
like within the first year of us, like, you know, tapping in and shit. We did Unoverse 2, we did Unoverse 3 at the end of the year, and some songs on there did very well, and I'm just excited to see what we end up doing, you know, in the future. And I just signed a management deal with him, so he's my manager technically now. So
congrats, bro. Good for you. That's awesome.
Thank you, bro.
So do you feel like that was like a turning point? Like, I know you said you've been at this shit for a long time, like 4 or 5 years. Do you feel like when you met Uno and started getting those opportunities, that was the biggest turning point this far?
I would say, yeah. I mean, the most obvious one, because right after that, it was like, I mean, other people in the underground who I won't name, who hit me up, messaged me. And I'm just like, God damn, like, literally, like, right off the rip, after we did Unoverse 2, like, I had a few people hit me up and be like, oh, like, your beats are crazy, like, send a pack. And so I've gotten locked in with a bunch of artists since that first project. But then after Unoverse 3, it was, like, even more. Like, I mean, I got in contact with a lot of other people, skaters, like, designers, like, people that I'm like, oh, okay, like, they're going crazy in their own right, too, you know? So that was cool to see, but it was like, damn, like, also the fact that they went out of their way to reach out to me, you know, and me being, you know, I only have like, I'm almost at 3,000 followers now, but that's not a lot compared to, you know, what other people have. So I was just like, damn, like, they're reaching out to me, like, and I think I'm nobody in the grand scheme of things, especially when it comes to producers. It
shows you like who's really tapped in with the underground too. It's interesting to see like artists who are like incredibly tapped in. Like there's some big artists who are great examples of this. Like even you talk about like, be it like, you know, an artist that goes out and gets like all these producers for a major project that nobody's ever heard of, or they go out and they get these features that nobody's ever heard of. It's cool that like there's certain gigantic artists that are super tapped in with what's going on in the underground.
Yep.
At that point, were you getting more connections from people who were like in Uno's circle in LA? Was anybody up here? Like, were you working with San Jose artists at all?
Oh yeah, the entire time I was working with San Jose artists. I was working with Trauma Fresh. I was working with Yonix. I'm still tapped in with Yonix. I'm still cool with Yonix. My boy Kobe Sully, at Kobe Sully on Instagram.
Shout out Kobe.
Like, that's the artist I work with the most closely. Handful of others. I just got tapped in with Kid Lord. Shout out Kid Lords.
Shout out Kid Lords. That was how we got connected.
Yep. My homegirl Dima, also a very talented artist from San Jose. She deserves to get checked out. At DamnXDima on Instagram.
Shout out Dima.
But yeah, I've been working with San Jose artists the entire time. It just happened to be when I got tapped in with Uno, it just like started progressing so fast after that. And I would say by Unoverse 3, like that's when Uno like started directly getting other people involved that he was making music with, and they were getting on my beats, like Maddox. Shout out Maddox.
Shout out Maddox.
Going fucking crazy. Ty Dolla $ign, that was another big one. I got the Ty Dolla $ign placement. Uno texted me one day. He's like, I got Ty Dolla on your beat.
That's crazy.
And I was like fucking tripping. I'm like, bro, holy fuck. You know, so that, I mean,
that was probably a trip, yeah.
It was a trip, because I never in a million years did I expect to get a text message like that. I'm like, damn.
And it all happened so quick.
It happened very fast. And yeah, and then I got tapped in with Yeat. Like I DM'd Yeat, and I was like, oh, you know, I'm Uno's main producer right now. Like, let me send you a pack, this and that. Didn't open it, and I think like a month or two went by, and then I hit him up again, and then I posted like that same night. I posted like a pack of beats on Instagram. And then he DM'd me. He responded to my DM. He was like, "Send me this one." So
Whoa.
He was like, "Send me this one." So I went and emailed him that. I emailed him a bunch of other ones, and then like literally like a day after that, that same night, he fucking had the song recorded and he sent the snippet back hella fast, and he added the bells to my beat. That's what like had me so dumbfounded.
That's your beat?
He has bells on a bunch of his songs, bro.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant the big one that blew up. You know the one I'm talking about, the one like with the meme, all the bells.
You're talking about Get Busy.
Yeah, Get Busy.
But yeah, bro, he stays adding bells to other producers' beats and shit. He's done that to me. He's done that to Filthy. He's done that to a bunch of other people, bro. And yeah, it's hella funny.
Because that's low-key his thing now.
That's his thing.
The bells, yeah.
That's definitely his thing. But yeah, I just thought it was so crazy that he got it back so fast. Like I literally sent him that beat, and like an hour later, he had a song, and then that song's about to be on the album. Which,
good for you.
I mean, is gonna drop soon.
Where's Yeat from again?
I think he's originally from Portland.
Oh, okay.
And then he came out to LA and started networking there and getting tapped in with the scene there.
Yeah, he's an interesting example of like that sound too that's blowing up right now. It's cool to see people from all over the place doing it too. Like, you know, when you think it's not just the East Coast anymore. You have guys from like Yeat from Portland doing it. I think like it's cool too that like, you know, you're here and you're doing it in the Bay Area, because there isn't that much like that coming out of the Bay Area right now, at least that I'm aware of, and it would be sick to see that movement kind of take place, you know, also in the Bay Area. That'd be cool.
And I think there's definitely a handful of artists that I know personally that like are on that wave and that you know, do make that kind of sound. But yeah, it's just a few. You know, Bay Area is occupied by, I would say, a traditional modern bass sound, but we don't really get too many of the anomalies here. There's a few anomalies here, but like Careless Aj, Fabe, my boy Chinny Slender, shout out Chinny.
Yeah, I'm actually tapped in with Chinny. We're gonna get an interview in soon.
Yeah, he goes crazy. They all go crazy, but yeah, there's not too many people making that type of music here in the Bay, so we're kind of like the weird ones, I would say, at least from the Bay Area. And in LA, this is like what everybody's making right now. Yeah, for most people. Yeah,
literally, because I think they see that it's the future.
Yeah,
I think people can see that and people can understand that. Did you when you started producing, did you try the whole like Bay Area sound thing? Like, how long did it take for you to progress to that? Like, what did you kind of start making?
The furthest I've gone to anything that sounds like it's from the Bay is like some Detroit beats, because I feel like the Detroit and Bay, like the Bay, like they influence each other a lot as far as like their sound and their production. But I haven't done any other, you know, hyphy sounding music or things that would be, you know, characterized as like Bay music. When I was first making beats, like I would say the one producer that like I really like looked up to a bunch and was like modeling my shit after was like Metro Boomin, Southside, and Pierre Bourne. Pierre Bourne's a huge influence on the sound that we have now, and like he really deserves like his credit, because the sound that's going on now, like it wouldn't have happened without the type of beats he's making. So he was like a huge step from like Mexico Dro to Pierre, and then to like the Filthies, and you know the type of shit that I make, you know. So shout out Pierre. Even
when you think about like on the level that he did it too, he did it as a producer, and now he's doing it as an artist.
Facts.
Which is a crazy thing, because that's not that common. I kind of want to talk to you about that too, because I know you make your own stuff too. You're an artist as well as a producer. Balancing those two worlds and kind of, you know, coinciding with the way that they collide, is that kind of a difficult thing for you to like? Do you feel that you have to identify with one, or do you try to identify with both? How is that?
I feel like I don't want to identify. I mean, I think obviously most people know me for, you know, my production, but I'm also an artist. I mean, literally the whole time I've been making beats, like I wanted to be an artist, and like I mean, I was making my own shit back in 2017, like up until now. I think it was just the fact that I spent so much time honing in like on my production, that kind of focusing on aspects of like who I wanted to be as an artist or what I wanted to sound like that came later, you know. And I would say now I've kind of, you know, found a pretty good grasp on like my sound, and I'm working on a project right now. I dropped one back end of 2020, beginning of 2021, called Shapes, but that was like way different compared to like what I'm making now.
In what way is it different? Do you think like you're just more in the sound that you're producing for, or like what do you think's changed?
Yeah, I would say I'm more like, because the stuff that I hopped on that project like wasn't really like the type of beats that I was making for everybody else. Like it was its own thing completely. And now like the type of beats I'm hopping on, like not only is it the type of shit I want to be making, and it's the shit that I'm making for other people, but like it's the stuff that I want to hop on too, you know, and record to. It's just like with little tweaks, and I would say tweaks in as far as like the vibe goes. Like I might make more aggressive stuff for another artist, but I'm more subdued like with my sound selection on my own stuff, or I try to be more like ambient instead of like overly, harsh or like destructive. It just depends on the song too.
Mm-hmm. When you're like making a beat, do you tend to like? Well, I guess I should ask you this: when you like start a beat, how often are you doing it with the intention that, oh, this beat is for this artist, or this beat is for this artist, or this beat is for me? Or do you kind of just start a beat and then finish it based on what sounds good? Or like, what's that process like?
It varies on the situation. I mean, there's some times where it's like I go into it and I'm like, I have to make a 10-pack for this person, or I'll make a 10-pack and I'll have like 2 or 3 people in mind, and then I end up sending out the whole pack and I just see like what sticks to the board. I just see what sticks to the board. And I mean, other times I want to go in and make beats, specifically for myself, and I end up, going in there with kind of like an idea of like the type of sound that I want to go for, and then everything else just follows. But there's other times where I'm just like, oh, this person sent me a loop, I'm just gonna pull this up and cook it real quick, or, it just really depends on the situation. Either way, it's fast. I make beats fast. How
fast? Like when you're making a pack, like let's say like someone hits you and they're like in the morning and they're like, oh, like, can I get a 10-pack for a session I have later tonight? How long will that take you to,
Mostly in that situation, I'll already have beats made. I'll have a shitload of beats made, and it'll just be a matter of like
picking the ones,
picking them and sending, be like, oh, this one, etc.
So you have like a huge vault, pretty much.
I have a lot of beats.
Are you producing every day?
Every day.
Wow, good for you, man. That's awesome.
Every day, but it varies. As some days I make 1 or 2 beats or a few beats, and then there's other days where I'm just like, after a slump, I'm just like, I want to crash out and go crazy and make 10 beats, and then I'll do that.
Yeah. Do you find yourself hitting a lot of like creative roadblocks where like it's hard for a certain period of time for you to make something that sounds cool, or like do you feel that like you're just pretty consistent with that, or are there periods where you struggle more?
I would say there's definitely periods like where I feel like, I would say uninspired, because a lot of, in the position I'm in now, like I get a lot of people sending me loops and melodies so that I can, make collab beats with them and stuff, which makes it really easy, but it also drains you at the same time because you're getting a lot of the same type of stuff and like sounds and loops, and it like gets tiring of hearing the same thing over and over again. And sometimes that makes me just like not want to cook up at all, because I'm just like, damn, bro, like everything's so homogenized right now, And then once I get out of that slump, I'm like, let me go make my own shit. Let me go make my own loops and stuff. Like, I can't even believe, like, that's a conversation that's had now, is, like making your own loops from scratch. Like, yeah. I think producers need to be doing that more, because everything's sounding the fucking same. And, like, everyone's trying to make the same exact fucking sound.
I feel that.
And I'm tired of it, bro. Like, honestly, like, even the raid shit that's going on right now, like, I'm trying to figure out what the next shit is. Like, every day I'm trying to hone in on that next sound.
That makes sense, and I feel like that's only something you're going to be able to do if you sit down every single day, you just experiment, you try shit, and you figure out, because it's going to be a fluke, like it's going to be one thing, where like, oh my god, what did I just do? And
exactly. That's literally how I think all big, like, evolutions, like, in production happen. Like, whether it's like, oh, he used this type of 808, like, and now, like, this is the fucking type of beat that's getting popularized and made, like, subtle ass change in an 808, or a subtle ass change in what kind of clap or perk or hi-hat you use, like things like that can lead to whole other like waves or subwaves, so
and like you said, like, and it could just be one thing, like you said, like it could just be like, think about, actually a great example of this would be drill. Like drill started with just the evolution of the 808s and sliding the 808s and the whole like weird transition of the 808s thing. But then it literally created an entire sound, and not just based in production, based in rapping too. Like it created a wave that just started with a different way to mix your 808s, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. That, like, not only what you're saying about like, just like how it changes like the delivery of like the actual artist on the beat, but at the same time, I've seen how much like since that what kind of drill are we talking about? Because I'm thinking like Pop Smoke type of drill.
Me too.
The recent just hearing how fast like that type of production has evolved too is like fucking crazy. Like, and now like they're using fucking like weird ass random samples and shit and pitching it up and like still using the crazy like gliding and sliding 808s and shit like that, but it's just like cool to see like how there's like little subgenres and sounds that are created, and just like seeing those evolve on their own, and just like seeing how far like they cycle out like into other sounds. Like I think that's always sick.
Dude, some kid the other day, I wish I could remember who sent me this. I don't remember his name. I wish I did, and I feel bad. If you're watching this, send me your name and I'll put your name on the screen right now. But some kid sent me a drill song he made, and I was just like, so there's like, I think it was like 6 blank bars before like he comes in, and the hi-hats in the verse were the sounds of gunshots.
The hi-hats?
Yeah, like it was like a sample of a gunshot that he like pitched up to sound like a hi-hat, and I was like, what the fuck? Like I was listening to that, and I was like, that's crazy. So it just shows you that like when you think there's no room for innovation, there always is, and it might seem like a sound has got to a place where it can't go any further, but all it takes is one person to come along and change one thing that just happens to stick, and then it can change the entire genre.
Facts.
So when did you first start making music in general? Did you start with production, or did you start with vocals? Like, how did you first get interested in music?
I think I was about. Let's see, what grade was I in? Might have been 2nd or 3rd grade. My grandma got me an acoustic guitar, and that acoustic guitar led me to wanting to just get an electric guitar. So I got an electric guitar. I was like in 3rd or 4th grade. I was taking guitar lessons with one of my classmates at the time. I'm still friends with this person to this day. Shout out my boy Luca.
Shout out Luca. You said Luca?
Luca, yeah.
That's my dog's name.
Yeah, oh. Shout out your dog, too.
Shout out my dog and Luca the human.
Shout out all the Lucas.
Both Lucas. Even Luka Doncic.
Anyways, getting to the point, my fucking one day, because me and my boy, we'd go to these guitar lessons, and, like, I mean, I think him being there, too, like, also made me motivated to go or to, like, be focused. Like, I've always had a bad, like, problem, I think, with being focused or, you know, maintaining my attention to things. Mm-hmm. Unless, like, I was, like, really obsessed with things. Like, I was always, like, kind of out of it unless I was like really obsessed with something. If I was obsessed with something, I knew everything about it. But with this guitar shit, one day my boy wasn't there, and I was just like not locked in. I was not paying attention, and the guitar teacher got mad at me for looking at the clock on the wall because he was like, "Oh, like this fucker is not paying attention. Like he doesn't care. He doesn't want to be here." And I was so young at the time. I was in 4th grade. I'm like, bro, like, are you shitting me right now?
And I assume somebody's, like, paying for the lesson. So, like, he's still getting paid. Why is he tripping?
That's what I'm saying.
That's stupid.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, my fucking dad was paying for that shit.
Yeah.
I'm like a little-ass kid. But, yeah, he fucking had a whole tantrum on me for not paying attention to him. And that, like, turned me off to music and, like, playing guitar for, like, a long-ass time. And then
that's fucked up.
Long-ass time. Yeah. Then when I got to like 8th grade or freshman year, that's when I picked up electric guitar again. And I was like, I mean, you know how teenagers are. Like, they go through their mood swings and things like that. Their emotions are heightened. So I was like going through a bad time, you know, when I was like 13 or 14. Ended up picking the guitar up again and making metal music and learning Slipknot songs. And, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, when I was 8, I was listening to like Slipknot, Metallica, just like dabbling in metal.
Yeah.
And like, my dad got mad that I was like listening to Slipknot. He's like, "Don't you know what that means? Like, you know what a Slipknot is? This and that, like, all crazy." But it was just, yeah, he thought it was just too much for, you know, me to be into at that time. But yeah, I ended up learning all these songs like when I was like in 8th grade or in freshman year, and like just trying to learn like my favorite riffs and things like that. End up doing all that. End up learning all my favorite Slipknot songs. Like, got super into it. Got like a couple 7-string electric guitars too. Wow. As I started getting into like music that had lower and lower tunings and shit. And yeah, I ran with that until I was like end of high school and then like beginning of college. And like when I got to college back in 2016, I just like fell in love with like hip hop music like out of nowhere. At least like where production was at that point. I'm like, I want to make this type of shit. Like 21 Savage, Travis Scott, like. Listening to that.
That was a crazy time.
Yeah, crazy time in music, 2016. 2016 and 2017 and 2015 were crazy in hip-hop specifically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started getting into that. I was making beats on GarageBand on like this fucking iPad I got from school. And then I got the demo version of FL from my boy Masai, who's unfortunately not here with us, but shout out my boy Masai, RIP, I love you, bro.
Shout out Masai.
He put me on a FL, got FL Studio, just using the demo version for like 4 or 5 months, and then one summer, I think in like 2017, me and one of my homies went to a Guitar Center and like ran out with a copy of FL Studio. Like, I swear to God. And it was when they had like the actual physical
the
boxes.
discs, yeah.
Like it was a big ass box, like matte black finish, all that shit, like that you could buy the software in, and it came with like this FL Studio, like USB stick and all this shit
so
that had,
funny.
like metal on it. It was badass, and it's like a $400 program, at least the version I got, and I walked out with that shit. And I've literally been using that same copy since then. Like, I'm sorry, Guitar Center, but yeah, they're making me great. FL's making me great, man.
That's
shout
funny.
out. Yeah, shout out Guitar Center and shout out FL.
Do you still produce in FL?
Yeah, hell yeah. I make everything in FL.
Yeah.
Everything I've made is in FL.
Are you one of those guys who like is like swears by a certain version of FL? 'Cause I know there's people who like they're like, oh, like version 12.0 or whatever is the best one, and then they just don't upgrade the software.
It's always the guys that had FL11.
Yeah.
FL11, they just like thought they were so sick. Like, and I had FL12 at that time when I first got it. It was FL12.
Yeah.
But there's all the heads like, oh no, I still have FL11. Like that's the one right there. But I'm on FL20 now, so it went straight from FL12
Jesus,
to
that's
FL20.
a big jump.
Big jump. I don't know why they did that, but that was the decision they made. So
Yeah.
it went straight from FL12 to FL20.
Have you tried other programs ever, like or just one DAW?
Just that DAW. I've seen another homie like dabble in Ableton. Like he uses Ableton. But yeah, that shit looks too much, and I already learned FL. I know my way around FL so well now. It's just like it wouldn't make any sense for me to like.
I think Ableton's catered to like a lot of EDM type stuff, right?
And
like
a lot of
live
EDM
music
producers do
production?
use it. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of EDM producers use that.
That makes sense, especially since like more and more hip hop producers are pretty much strictly using FL. That's been an interesting progression to see it like become like the hip hop program, the hip hop DAW.
Yeah.
So you got into production when you said you were just got into college, correct? Where were you going to school at the time?
I was going to San Jose State.
Oh, okay. So were you making your own music at that time at all, or were you just doing production?
I wasn't even I hadn't even made or recorded like any metal music up until that point. And like up until that point, like I was super into like metal music and like metalcore and like progressive metal and shit. And like I had all my bands that like I still like fuck with to this day, like a lot of metalcore shit. But I never recorded any of it, never took it to a studio. Like I always just had like riff ideas that I had memorized and things that like one day, you know, I wanted to record and, you know, have a band, you know, to record that album with or a project with, you know what I'm saying? And that never happened. There wasn't a lot of musicians in the Bay Area that like made that specific type of sound that I wanted to go for. So that never happened. But yeah, after that, just like I locked in with just making beats and things like that.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, it doesn't make very much sense, but I feel like punk is huge in the Bay Area, but metal isn't for whatever reason. Like, I feel like metal kind
punk and hardcore, all that shit.
It's like, but it's like only punk and hardcore like stops at that. Like, it doesn't cross the line to metal for whatever reason. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the history behind that. It's kind of weird.
It is, yeah, and neither do I. You're asking the wrong guy. I don't know anything about that.
A great movie, if you're interested in the history of East Bay punk, is Turn It Around. It's a documentary just strictly about East Bay punk music. It's fascinating.
Okay.
Yeah. So you start making music then. Let me ask you this first. Are you doing this full time now?
Yeah.
How long did it take to get to that point, like where you could start to do this full time?
4 or 5 years now.
So what were you doing in between the time when you started and then got there? Just grinding and working minimum wage jobs, doing what? Did you drop out of school?
So with San Jose State, I got kicked out. I was on academic probation. And I was just like, just wasting time. I mean, not wasting time. I mean, I look back and I had fun, you know, fucking turning up and partying and all that shit, but like ultimately, like that's why I got kicked out, was because I wasn't focused. Like,
yeah,
as soon as I got to college, I was just like all about turning up, doing drugs, like getting fucked up, experimenting, you know, meeting people and shit. And yeah, literally as soon as I got kicked out of school, I mean, like it was already like I want to do this music shit, or I wanted to make beats like for real, like I wanted to take it seriously and like get more into it and like master it. And for the next like 4 years, like after I started making beats, so like 2017, like I was working at Cinnabon. Like, so after my first year of school, I was working at Cinnabon at this mall, Valley Fair Mall. And that was a terrible job. I was getting sexually harassed there by my manager and like his cousin who worked there. Yeah, I swear to God.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's terrible.
It was fucking crazy. I think his name was Jeremy or something. His name was Jeremy.
Jeremy, if you're watching this, fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, he was a straight rapist motherfucker. He just had some major rapey vibes, and like, I have absolutely nothing against gay people, but he was just, when he was making these advances on me, like, he made me extremely uncomfortable, and he was doing a lot of inappropriate shit.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing it to multiple people that worked there, including one of yeah, my boy who was a manager there, he also was getting violated upon. So I mean,
Jesus.
Not all crazy. Damn, they're gonna go listen back to that and be like, God damn, what is he talking about? But yeah, nah, just
anyway. So you so you were working at minimum wage jobs.
Yeah, I was in the mud.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. I was living at home. I was basically I was just being a bum. Aside from that, like I was just making beats. I was working at Cinnabon. Then, like, after that, I was just broke for a minute. I stopped working at Cinnabon because I said, fuck that. I was tired of working there. Yeah, what else did I do after that? And I was just making beats, like, trying to record, make money recording and, like, trying to, like, sell a few beats here and there and, like, making a little bit of money. But, like, it was so inconsistent that, like, I mean, I was damn near literally always broke, bro. And, like, it was just the fact that I lived at home that it was, like, not bad. And, like, you got food at home and shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, there wasn't a whole lot going on. And then, I would say, shit, when did I start working again? I, like, literally was, like, on and off, like, working minimum wage jobs, like, 2017 to 2019 or 2020.
Jeez.
And then 2020, I, like, lost the last job that I had, like, the last actual job. And I was working at a sandwich shop in San Jose, Ike Sandwiches.
Ike's
and like
fire.
Yeah, Ike's is fucking fire.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love working there. I love free sandwiches. Yeah, Ike's is amazing.
It's so good.
And shout out Ike. I've talked to Ike a few times actually on Instagram.
Oh, it's
cool
fun.
Guy. Yeah, genuine guy.
One time at the Apple store, I met a girl that dated Ike in college.
Oh no. Yeah, see about
shit.
them Ike's girls though. ... About them Ike's girls. And if anyone who worked at Ike's can confirm these myths, these legends that are out there about Ike, and he's a crazy guy, and I can't confirm or deny any of the rumors that I've heard or the stories I've heard, but that guy is fucking crazy, and he definitely loves women. That's all I have to say.
That's kind of what I heard from this random woman at the Apple store.
We may have heard the same shit, but
with respect.
He's with respect. He is a great guy overall.
With peace and love to Ike.
Yeah, shout out Ike Shahada or whatever, however the fuck you say your last name, bro.
So you're working minimum wage jobs. What was it like when you started making enough money selling beats to support yourself? Like, and also at the same time, how were your parents feeling about you just living at home and kind of working minimum wage jobs?
They were not happy, and they were not happy also because I wasn't going to school. So I mean, it's one thing to not be working, but it's another thing to not be working and like you're not going to school. And I only had like a couple minimum wage jobs in between that. It was like Cinnabon. I forgot what the other one was. I was mostly doing music shit or trying to like grind in music. I was also doing a music internship at the time. I was engineering or doing an audio engineer internship at Redwall Studio in Fremont, California. And I'm still cool with my mentor, Cisco. Shout out Cisco Wave. He's a fire-ass producer and engineer. Yeah. But, yeah, they did not like, I think, the path I was on in life. And I was also, like, I had problems, like, in high school with, like, smoking and drinking and stuff, too. And, like, that was also, like, carrying on, like, into me being, like, an adult or, like, early, young adult, and they didn't fuck with that. So I think I always told them about the music shit. And I always told them that I was grinding, and they never saw that. They never saw the grind I had to put in to, like, be here now or to at least be in the positions I'm in now. But now they're starting to see it. But definitely back then, I didn't have much to show for myself. It was a lot of local people that I was tapped in with, and it's like that only means so much to like. I mean, I think one's parents in general. You know, like you want to be working with some heavy hitters, some stars, for them to actually start respecting like what you're doing. You know, and it's starting to get to that point with them, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, for a while it was just like I was grinding, and I had blind faith that it was gonna pay off, or that I would come across the right thing or the right opportunity or the right people.
And you were right.
And I was right, and I'm glad I took that bet on myself. But like, bro, it was really hard, like being broke, like not having money, and then like I was like slaving it, like with my last like $5, like taking a bus to 30 or 45 minutes away to go intern for 6 hours and then come back, and I didn't make any money that whole 6 hours, and I'm getting my girl at the time to come pick me up and all this shit like from this internship, and it was just like. It was just a lot. It was a lot. And it was a lot being firm in something that pretty much everyone else in my life like didn't believe in or like didn't think was going to happen. So I'm grateful for the few of my friends that did believe in me, because now we rocking and we going crazy, and it's just like about to be to a whole other level. That's my boy Kobe right there. Shout out my boy Kobe again.
Shout out Kobe. Yeah, man. I mean, I relate to that on a first-hand basis. Like, I get that. It's also a thing, too, is I think when you're trying to work in a space of hip-hop, it's kind of hard for, like, people from a different generation to understand what that means exactly. You know, like, I feel like production probably is as hard to explain as what I'm doing to somebody. You know, when I say, like, oh, I'm trying to start a music media company, nobody over the age of 35 understands what the fuck that means.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like, you saying, like, I want to be a producer, or I want to sell beats for a living, or I want to do whatever in that lane, that's incredibly confusing to somebody who's, like, not of our age.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. And because it's like, I mean, at least with my parents, like, trying to get them to understand that, it's like, all these like new concepts that like exist within the modern day music industry, and like all these modern artists, like that's something that like our parents or like or older people, like, I mean, respectfully, like can't relate to or like don't understand. Like the way our brains have developed has been like with the internet and like with overtime, and like we have certain concepts that like we understand because it's like it's only a thing that's existed within our generation, you know what I'm saying? And like that definitely holds true with like music and just with the internet, and also with understanding like your income streams.
I mean, say so much to the point where like they just don't. Yeah, the income stream thing's huge. Like I was actually just talking about this with my mom this morning. We were talking about how like I was pretty much telling her, I was like, I don't think like anybody your age would because I was trying to explain to her like how like you can monetize a music media company, and I was like, I don't think anybody, the majority of people your age, if they hear this conversation, they'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to like what you're doing, or like even what I'm doing, or what anybody who technically is growing a business online is trying to do, I don't think older people understand that like it is way more scalable than an in-person business.
Facts. Yeah, because you're so flexible. You're literally, I mean, the whole world is at the touch of a fingertip, you know, and also on top of that, I wanted to say earlier is that
yeah, my bad.
My bad. No, you didn't cut me off. It was just like I didn't remember to include this detail at the time. Is that like I think the older generations, like they're under this impression that, you know, you get paid $20,000 off a record when you produce a record, you know what I'm saying? And it's like now, like that's not really how it plays out. You get like a little advance if you're lucky, you know what I'm saying? You make a little bit of money on the front end, like when you're working with a bigger artist, and then you make your money off publishing on the back end. And then it equates to like, oh, well, I made $40,000 off this song I produced or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, they look at it as like, oh, well, you better own your masters, you better own this, you better, you know, maintain your ownership and your rights, and, you know, all that shit. And it's like, there's so many, like, different things that these, like, people won't understand unless they're in your world, you know, and that goes for anything, I think. And they aren't in the world, so they don't get it. Yeah. Explain to me, so I assume the majority of, like, how you make a living comes from, what you were just talking about, like making money and publishing on the back end. Explain to me the BeatStars hustle a little bit, because you sell a lot of beats, right? I will tell you this. So before we go forward, I haven't seen a single dollar from publishing yet. Like, keep in mind, like, I just started working with, like, Uno last year. And, like, that's, like, the first big artist that I've worked with. You feel me?
It takes that long.
It takes, like, a year to kick in. So I'm probably within the next couple months going to start seeing money from the first project that we did. But for the BeatStars hustle and for selling beats on Instagram, I've only sold maybe, like, 10 beats on BeatStars or something, like not a lot, and like that's like 10 different leases right there. So I mean, when you sell a beat, it's like you can sell one beat X amount of times as a lease, and then you can sell it as an exclusive one time, or there's different definitions and means of what an exclusive is. But basically it's just all from me posting beats and people hitting me up and responding, be like, yo, I want to buy this one, or how much for this, and like me just working with people's budgets. Probably back then when I was like really underground, like didn't have any placements or anything like that, and I would just scrounge up like whatever money I could from doing that, or it would be like, oh, like I'll record you for $50 an hour or something like that. And I was charging people $50 an hour back when I was like, I didn't have a real studio to work out of, like it didn't have a good mic, like I had shitty plugins, like I was like really hustling because I didn't even know how fucking bad my resources were at the time. Then I had good resources and good equipment. And I'm like, God damn, I was getting over on these people, bro. Like, I'm sorry. I had to do what I had to do, and you had to do what you had to do. Yeah. So. But, yeah, bro, it's a hustle. Even now, it's a fucking hustle because some days you'll have days where you make like a bunch of money in one day off people buying beats. Or I've sold a drum kit. I only did it one time where I was selling a drum kit that had some of my sounds and some of my loops, so people could cook up with some of the sounds that I use. And that was really cool, and that's another profitable thing that a lot of producers like in my lane do. They sell drum kits and loop kits, and they make a lot of money off that, and that's very profitable. But right now, I'm just awaiting like those nice little returns on publishing from the songs that I did last year or produced last year. And I'll be able to speak on that from that point. But yeah, bro, we really just getting started. This is literally nothing compared to like what's gonna come. So.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
That's interesting that like you're selling beats off Instagram specifically, because like is that something that you like kind of just started doing by yourself, or are there other people doing that right now? Because I've never seen it.
Other people do it too. They post snippets on their Instagram. It could be like a series like 5 or 6 or more snippets of beats they have, and then people will just respond or comment, oh, let me cop this one, or they'll DM and be like, oh, let me buy this one. That's usually how it works out. So Instagram is super valuable for producers selling, like, to make money.
Yeah, I feel like it's valuable for any creative in general.
Yeah,
like
facts.
people
we get into it, but
yeah, like, people like forget how much you can do through that social media platform and the amount of people you can meet. Like the amount of I've met so many people through Instagram, like way more than I could ever count. It's pretty crazy. Walk me through like your process when you start making a beat. Do you start with drums or do you start with melodies? What kind of like how do you layer it? Like how do you usually what do you start with and then build off of?
I usually start with a melody. So it's either gonna be someone's loop that they sent me. I pull up and I flip it, or like I'll change the pitch on it, or reverse it or chop it up, like alter it in some way, and kind of figure out like how am I gonna arrange this this melody like throughout the beat. So it'll usually start with that, or I'll cook up a melody from scratch, and then I'll do drums afterwards. Very rarely will it be a situation where I pull up the drums first, or like an 808, and I'll come up with like the 808 melody first, and then I'll do like the actual melody like afterwards. Because sometimes the 808 melody is like more important than the actual melody behind it. Or they're just as important, but sometimes I like to start with like the 808 melody because I'm like, oh damn, like that's the sound I want to hear throughout the beat. Like it just depends.
Is that how you've always cooked up, or has your process changed over the years?
It's always been like that. It always starts with like the melody first.
Do you feel like that's what you're drawn most to in a song? Like when you hear a song, just not that you're making, but like a song that just somebody else made. Is that like what you hear first, your melodies?
I feel like it's harder to save. No, that's not true. I was gonna say it's harder to save a melody than it is to save drums, but they're both important. You have to get both right. But the melody is super important. It's the first thing I worry about.
Yeah, for sure. So you're doing that. How long does that usually take? So I mean, I assume every beat's different, but like front to back on average, how long does a beat take you?
5 to 10 minutes. I would say 5 minutes. 5 minutes, like if I already have the loop, and then like 10 minutes, like it might be like 6 minutes like making the actual melody. Like it'll be like 2 or 3 sounds or maybe 4 sounds max in the melody. I'll bounce out the melody and I'll bring it back in and I'll do the drums, and like the drums just come super quick to me. Like I have my go-to sounds that I go for. I have some go-to patterns. And anyone who really listens to my beats, they'll know the patterns I use and like the actual sounds I use, like for sure. Everybody uses them. But it just so happens to be like what I've kind of, made a staple, with my approach.
I think another thing that's interesting about like production and hip hop production specifically that a lot of people don't think about is that like a lot of the time you have to pay for things to make stuff sound good. Like you have to pay for like, you have to pay for stems, you got to pay for loops, or you got to pay for like samples, you got to pay for drum packs, or you got to go and buy Omnisphere. Like people don't understand that there's like an upfront investment that is really involved in hip hop production.
Yeah, and you know what's so funny? Like I just got this question today. Someone hit me up and was like, "Oh, do you use Nexus 4? Do you use Omnisphere?" Like, and those are plugins that like you have to buy. That Omnisphere costs like $400 or $500 bucks. Like, I've only used Omnisphere when I used to intern at Redwall. I've never touched it. I've never had it on my computer.
Really?
I think all my plugins are free. So that's another thing that shocks people is all the plugins I use are free or they're stock. Like the only plugin that I've like bought was Serum, and I was just renting it. I was just renting it through Splice. I never had like some crazy like high-end plugin.
That's super interesting actually. Because I feel like that speaks to like how easy it is to make music now. I mean, not easy, but accessible.
Yeah, for sure.
It's incredibly accessible at this point, and that goes for the majority of creative endeavors. Whether it's music production or whether it's videography. It's like things are getting easier and easier and easier to do. And I guess what that does is it also widens the field of people doing them. So there's probably more producers now in hip hop than there ever was.
Yeah, there's gotta be fucking millions, bro. There's gotta be there's a lot. There's millions. I would say there's millions. And when you're in the world, like when you're in the producer world, then you see how many there are. And you understand there's producer memes and like ideas and like concepts that are like hot in the producer community at the time and shit. It's just like any world, like people who are into crypto or like it's like any niche. Yeah, exactly. When you're in that niche, then you start to seeing like how big that world actually is. Like,
I bet a big reason why there's so many hip hop producers right now is because for whatever reason, I think Metro Boomin's probably a big catalyst for this. I think for whatever reason, in the past like 4 to 5 years, the hip hop producer has now started to be viewed in a somewhat similar light as the artist, and that wasn't a thing till recently. Ever, like in history. Like it's not like, 9 times out of 10, like we look back at really old hip hop and we're not looking at who produced the beat. We're not looking at who made the instrumental. We're only thinking about the artist. I feel like it's just now a newer thing that like there are star producers.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And there's a few examples of that, like Murda Beats also. Like that was one of the producers that I also looked up to early on because he was like, not only was his drive so crazy, like when he was like 16 or 17, he went to Chicago to try to fuck around in the drill scene for a little bit, like when Dirk and like Chief Keef like were going crazy, and then he was fucking with Migos in Atlanta when he was like 17, like stupid young.
Yeah, I've seen interviews of him talking about how young he was in the studio with them.
He was doing all that before he's an adult, and I was like 18 or 19 just getting into music. I'm like, bro, this guy was like so hungry, and then I ultimately like wanted to embody that. I was like, I want to be like Murda, like I want to fucking like carry myself like that. I want to be cool in every room I go into, and like he's a white boy. Like, I mean, being a white person in the hip hop world, like I think is like it's not as hard as it used to be. There's a lot of people that open that door up for white people, but just like being someone who's like not African American, like in hip hop, like I think we all have that natural like, you want to be accepted, and he was accepted because not only was he hungry, but like he had like a crazy work ethic to back that up. Like, and that also just goes to show that music transcends like your color, like where you come from, or like your background. Like it's about the music and it's about what kind of person you are, and I value that like to the highest degree.
I think he's also a good example of somebody in the early days who was doing the whole like I can make 12 beats a day thing. Like that wasn't that big of a thing for
doing the live cookups and all that.
Exactly. I think Internet Money low key was like a big inspiration for that too. I feel like, I mean, at least that's where I first like started paying a lot of attention to that.
Yeah.
Where people would just hop on and like even the stream stuff. like that's even another way as a producer you can make money. You know, you can do like the whole
Twitch
thing,
and all that.
yeah, the whole Twitch thing, and that's a whole
Kenny
different
Beats.
weird community. Yeah. Kenny Beats is sick, man. I love Kenny Beats. I'm a big fan of The Cave. I watch The Cave a lot.
Yeah, no, The Cave's fire.
Yeah,
Kenny goes crazy.
Yeah, Kenny's dope.
That's another fire producer that's inspired me throughout the years.
Kenny Beats?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially since he does so many different things, too, which is really
his
cool to me.
versatility is retarded.
Yeah, he's like an incredibly versatile producer. How many artists are there that you work with on like a regular basis? Like, cause I know you have like your group of artists or whatever, but even outside of that, are there just like a lot of one-offs? I mean, it sounds like there are, cause you're selling beats to people that end up working with again. But how many artists do you have like in your circle that you work with like very regularly and like closely with?
Obviously, I think the most obvious one's Uno. Like me and Uno, like still topped in. I send him beats damn near every day, every other day still. So we got new shit on the way, but my boy Kobe right here too. That's another that's like the only other person I make music with like that consistently. There's a few other artists right now that I'm topped with in like the underground scene. Like Zeliocho is like one of my favorite artists right now in the underground. He's from Ohio. He's from Cleveland, I think. And he's like really good friends with the producer 16-year-old he's a co-producer on Mo Bamba.
16-year-old.
Yeah. Shout out 16-year-old. But Zeliocho is going crazy. I have a few songs with him that are unreleased, and then like one he dropped on SoundCloud like last week. Song Thought About It. He's hard as fuck. I want to get more shit in with Maddox. I got the Maddox placement from Uno on the song Riding Round on Uno verse 3. Trying to see. I just got a few more plugs like just this past week through my management or like one of the other managers. So it's Uno, and then I have another manager, Benjamin, and he's helping me out to get new placements in. So this next year is gonna be exciting. We're gonna get a lot of shit out, but yeah, bro, it's literally like within those. Like I'm Uno's main guy right now, and like me and Kobe are making a lot of shit, and then I'm also working on my my next project, my solo project.
Talk about that a little bit. Do you have an idea when that's going to be out, and is that kind of entering a different wheelhouse of sounds?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely like. So I had a project that dropped at the end of 2020. Well, I didn't drop it on distro until like beginning of 2021, but Project Shapes. It's like. I would say it's got a lot of psychedelic sounds on there, but it's got some that's like more instrumental, like guitar, like more melancholy, but like trippy, like sounding, mixing and just like very spaced out and like ambient sounding. But it's like more emotional, and I think it's more centered around like experiences that I had, like I guess just like in my love life and just like with relationships and things like that, and just like heartbreak. And I've completely veered away from that sound. Like with the current shit I'm making right now, it's more like high energy, way more psychedelic sounding as far as like the mixes and like the vocals. Like it's way more like intricate with the type of mixes that's going on, and just like being like more thought out with the production, I guess, as far as like creating a more cohesive sound. I would say on Shapes I was just kind of experimenting with all types of shit. But now it's kind of like more cyber, like electronic, like sounding stuff that's going on in this new shit I've been making. But it sounds fucking crazy. I'm just more or less excited to like create all the art that's supposed to accompany it, whether it's like the visuals for the videos or like the actual like art for the cover. So I'm honing in on all of that. But I'm hoping to get some new shit out by March or April.
Are you planning to do all that stuff yourself, like the art and everything and the videos, or what? Are you working with other people?
Nah, the videos might be done from a few different people, and the visuals might be done from. I have a few people in mind, but yeah, we're honing in on it. But I got a lot of unreleased music that I'm trying to get out soon. It's just a matter of finishing up mixes, mastering everything, and then taking a more visionary approach with how I want to portray the songs or how I want to portray the actual music visually, and just going all out with the videos. I think that's super important.
Oh yeah, especially now. You almost need a visual to your stuff if you want it to really do numbers, you want it to really be heard. You would need to, it's funny, it's almost counterintuitive. To be heard, you have to be seen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's more of a thing now than it ever has been.
Yeah, we coming on some different shit. I definitely, like, I want people to really, like, see who I am as an artist, too, and not just as a producer. Like, and I'm going to get that respect.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give a fuck. I'm going to get that respect as a fucking artist, too. Like, because, I mean, on some real shit, like, I feel like producers as artists, like, they go crazier than a lot of, like, just artists that already existed before them, bro. Like, on some real shit, like, there's a lot of fire producers that are, like, crazy artists, too. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just going to add to that list.
Yeah, and you definitely don't just have to be one. And
yeah.
I mean, that's been proven time and time again. Like how we were talking about Pio earlier, and it's just the list.
Kanye, like, look at Kanye. Yeah. Like, yeah, bro, don't ever put anybody in a... I don't give a fuck who you are, bro. Like, what world you come from. Don't ever put anybody in a box, bro. Because, like, seeing, like, the journey that he's gone through to become the multi-hyphenate that he is, like, producer, artist, designer, like, lifestyle curator, like, that is fucking crazy to me. Like, and that's what I aspire to be.
Mm-hmm. Just somebody who can do anything, and you really can do that now. It's I think a lot of that comes from the access that we have to everything too through the internet. You can teach yourself anything, and not just at a base level, at the highest level. Yep. You can become the best producer in the world based on what you learn on YouTube. It's a matter of it's a matter of whether or not you have the creativity and the drive to be able to reinvent what you learn and make something different.
Facts.
So on Shapes, when you put out that EP, was that the first project you put out like ever, or are there more that just aren't on streaming anymore?
Yeah, that's the only project I put out, but I did put out like a few songs, like singles, like prior to that, like 4 or 5, like, I mean, which looking back on, I think I deleted a couple just because I didn't like how they sounded or how they were mixed. But people kind of fucked with those on SoundCloud. People kind of fucked with those. I wouldn't say my numbers are all crazy on there or anything, but like when I look at like the numbers that my old shit was getting compared to like the newer stuff that I dropped recently, like I'm just like, damn, like it did all right.
When you locked in and made that EP, how do you think like locking in and making, or just going through the process of making a full project, how do you think that like changed your perspective or helped you grow as an artist? Because I know, like you said, you're able to like pump out 10 beats in 30 minutes or 2 hours or whatever. Do you think like sitting down and making a more focused, cohesive project that had like one consistent sound helped you as an artist?
Yeah, it did, because I got to a certain point when the project was like 75 or 80% done, and I had a bunch of songs that like weren't finished. And when it got to that point, I just like went on super like grind time mode and just like knocked everything out and like got in the stew and like did whatever I had to do to like finish those songs and shit. And like I did it. It was more or less an exercise in like finishing a fucking project and like just getting it done. You know what I'm saying? And like now, like I'm working on this next project, and it's pretty much going to be the same thing, and I get a bunch of ideas out and I record a bunch of ideas, and those songs just, they develop over time. Some happen all at once, and some happen where I come back to the song months later and finish it, and half of it was, incomplete prior to that. So
and sometimes you get random bursts of inspiration. You're like, wow, I'm going to go back and finish this song that I never thought I would finish, but you just don't know. It's
like doing a couple strokes on the canvas, and it's just like you like where it looks already, but it's like you're not ready to make that next move. You don't want to fuck it up. That's exactly how I would describe it.
What are like the major things that inspire you to go and like make a beat? Like, do you ever like, will you like watch a movie and you'll say, shit, like I want to make something that like encapsulates that vibe, or will you like, do you read, like where do you get outside inspiration from?
I mean, okay. Damn, that's a good question. I would say it's either, well, it depends. Usually I wake up, I work out, or I'll smoke. And if I'm smoking and I feel good, like sometimes I want to make a beat, and I'll make a beat while I'm high as fuck and just like be in that vibe, and it's almost like a type of meditation for me. Like you just get locked into it when you're super lit.
Yeah, you get in a flow state.
Yeah, you get in a flow state, and that's usually what happens. But then there's other times where I'm like, I want to smoke and put on a movie or put on a show, and then like have that in the background, just watching it, like peering back at it, like while I'm cooking up, like that kind of thing. I like doing that too. I think a lot of artists actually like doing that. A lot of artists like actually record like while watching, Netflix on the screen, like muted or something like that, and just the visual alone like gives you a lot of inspiration. So
That's actually kind of cool. I feel like maybe that's something I should start doing more when I'm like in my room doing above the bridge stuff, working honestly editing specifically. Maybe I'll just like buy a little TV and throw it like by my desk and just start throwing like old cartoons or some shit on it muted.
Facts.
Like why not? All right, I love your story, man. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like where do you want to be? Like what's the pinnacle in 5 years?
Platinum plaque, at least one. We're gonna get plaques in between. We're getting the gold plaque for sure in between, but a platinum plaque, I don't know who it's gonna be from. Making 6 figures at least a year. I mean, as a producer, like I think that's like, it's in the realm of possibility, and like I just want to be able to like live comfortably. At the end of the day, like it doesn't matter, but I need that financial freedom, and I think a lot of the money that I'm gonna make off music is just gonna be beautiful, and I just can't wait to look back on it 5 years from now, and just like seeing the crazy journey that like I went through, and just being like, damn, like I was just a little fucking kid like who thought like he was hot shit, you know what I'm saying? But like it was nothing compared to like where I'm at now, you know what I'm saying? And that's where I hope my older self is at, where I'm just like, damn, bro, like this is just like nothing, you know, like this is nothing, you know. I just want to be great. I just want to be the best at what I do, and I want to inspire millions of people across the world to be creative and to fucking pursue their passions and to be great at their gift, because I think music is my gift. That's what I was born with. But yeah, just financially free, secure, stable, roof over my head still. You know, it's the same people still in my life. We'll see how it plays out, but yeah.
Yeah, man. I think, and if you haven't stopped by now, I don't think you're gonna stop till you get there.
Facts.
Yeah, brother. I can't wait to come back in 5 years and watch this interview. That'll be fun, and see all those things come true. Appreciate you,
they're
Dream.
they're gonna come true too. That's the funny thing.
Of
We're gonna look
course.
back on this moment like I called my future self.
Called a shot.
Called the bluff. And we're there.
All right, bro. Thank you for doing this. Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you, gang.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for real. All right, music matters.
Yeah.